You're in your workshop.
I'm in my workshop.
Okay.
You're in your apartment.
Yes. Steve Reich, actor, lawyer, based in New York. Hallelujah. Looking to get back at it.
You betcha. Michelle Fick. Well, let me finish.
2021, maybe we'll have some action. Go ahead.
Michelle Fix, comedian, fashion and home industry vet, and burgeoning ceramicist, or I should say budding ceramicist.
You've had way too much experience updating your resume in your life because, like, you're very detailed in your description of your professions.
That was not detailed.
And you're like, you want to see details? I'm like, I'm an actor, I'm a lawyer. You're like, I'm a in-home design specialist / improv comedian of a certain genre. Oh, like, what? So I thought of something that I wanted to lead with this week. I've realized that in certain moments, I've definitely become the man I did not want to be. And I'll tell you 2 instances. I've become a bit of a crank.
Oh.
And I've become a bit of a pretentious snob.
Really?
And I'll do the snob first.
That was you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do the snob first.
Okay.
I was having dinner with my girlfriend the other night, and she got branzino.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, it's good. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And
that's solid.
She has a bite of it, and she's like, oh, this is good. And I quote, I say, yeah, it's great fish, right?
It's great fish, right? What the hell?
The moment I said it, I'm like, oh, God. That's sickening.
It's very Upper West Side.
It's very just like...
No, it's very Upper West Side, like Woody Allen movie. Yeah.
It's just like so detached from like the trials and tribulations of most people's lives. It's like in a movie, that's when like a van just like veers off the Broadway and like takes me out and all the other diners on the new like outdoor dining situations we have post-COVID. Just one sweep with the tables flying up in the air and the plates and the silverware, and it's like, you know, that's deserved.
That was too much. It was too much.
Dead by the gods of humility. But I'll tell you why I say it like that, because it's a fun story. The reason I use that language is in the last movie I did before the world ended, which was super exciting because I was in a movie called Worth, which stars Michael Keaton, and I got to do multiple scenes with him. So this is like a career highlight, and it premiered at Sundance, and I got to see that and everything, and I'm in the film. It's all very exciting. But the highlight of it for me was that in between takes, you know, you get to kind of like talk to the actors, and Michael being one of them, Mike, as he goes by. And he is one cool cat. And so we're just chatting about various things, and, you know, he likes hockey, and my co-star likes hockey, so they were talking about that. And I was kind of keeping to myself. I didn't want to, like, butt in. But then Keaton says, this particular movie where we're in is set in the early 2000s. It's about 9/11. So there was a lot of wardrobe changes that he had to do because there was a lot of different suits and a lot of different looks. And he's in like almost every frame of the film. So he brought up, he's like, man, I've really never had to do so many wardrobe changes. And of course I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I know what the hell I know. Like I'm like, oh, Joker. Like, I know what I'm talking about. But he goes, no, wait, that's not true. The most wardrobe changes I had to do was for multiplicity. I don't know if you've seen Multiplicity, but it is a hilarious 1980s film with Michael Keaton where he gets the idea, he's a scientist, he gets the idea to clone himself so he can be a better boyfriend. So he's like always around like his girlfriend who's played by Andy McDowell. So you know it's in the 80s. And like he's just always, or like maybe early 90s, but regardless, he's like, you know, always like on the spot, like able to do all the chores he couldn't do before. It's just a funny concept.
Uh-huh.
And I happen to love that movie. So so there's this amazing part in that movie where one of his, because then the clones start fighting with each other over their love of Andy. But one of the clones, I don't know, there was something like one of the clones was talking to Andy McDowell about one of the other ones. And she's like, I don't know, he's just so good at this or that. And the other one gets jealous and he's like, damn it, that guy's a workhorse. So when Michael says, oh no, that's not true, that the most wardrobe change was Multiplicity, I'm like, boom, I hop right in and I go, I gotta tell you, I love that movie. And like a fanboy, I quote that line where I'm like, he's a workhorse. So Michael takes in and he goes, it's funny, right? So now I use that type of like phraseology. It's like, it's good, right? Like it's such a cool, like confident sort of like, yeah. Like I know, right? So then I'm like, Branzino's a good fish, right? It's a good fish. So that's how that all came about. But the other horrible moment I realized I was just like such a person I didn't want to be, was I'm such a crank. And this is just like everywhere. Just walking around, if somebody's like, I don't know, like wearing something I don't approve of or is making noise, I'm like, oh, that mother. I'm just such a crank all the time. Everyone, it's like, and I'm like, God, leave people alone. Why are you so down on everyone? Like this fucking guy, or oh, that guy's playing his music too loud, or oh, he's bragging. I'm like, oh my God. Let people be. Why are you so cranky? So that's my life.
Well, you have a lot of time on your hands, so you're noticing things more.
And I cannot hold a candle to your crankness.
Oh, I'm not cranky. You can consider it cranky if you think it's negative. I don't think it's negative.
You enjoy being frustrated by people.
Are you kidding? I love looking over at people and going, ugh.
Oh.
Oh my God. She shouldn't even have a driver's license. What the fuck was that?
What was that? What you just did right there was when one of your favorite moments I ever saw you do in improv, where you were improving with a friend of ours who was not very good and was growing on your nerves, independent of improv. And as everyone knows in improv, it's yes and. So you get on stage and you're supposed to support your fellow improver and what they're doing. And he was doing something that was clearly super like juvenile and annoying. I think he was playing a kid, which is something you really don't want to do as an improver too much because it's stupid.
Yeah.
And you walked into the scene and he like looked at you like for help to like get the scene going and you go, and you just kept walking. I was like, that's a terrible improv, but that was really funny. Did you guys see? That was funny because you're like, you just had no interest in engaging in the clown for another minute. Out on him in a live improv show.
Yeah, I probably did. I normally didn't do stuff like that, but like, yeah, if somebody like really moved beyond the pale, where it was like, I can't.
Yeah, that's what you're like.
I got nothing. I can't help you. There's nothing to yes and. You are doing.
You were just nothing. Like, I don't want to yes and this.
There was nothing to yes and. I mean, there is always something to yes and, of course.
But it's so frustrating, Robert. It's like you have the weaker link, so it's like they've been told by a coach or a teacher time after time, that, you know, if you go on, you're doing some work, you don't make it about the object. You don't start with a question, and then they just buckle under the lights and they do it every time. So it's like, and it's annoying. And so it's like one time I was doing a class show, and I'm out there and I'm like digging, you know, you start with an activity and I'm like digging in the soil or whatever I'm doing. And the girl comes out and she goes, "What you doing?" And I was like, 3 months of being like, we don't do that. We don't ask a question. What you doing?
I'm just gonna throw it right back on you. Even though you started the scene very actively, I'm gonna come in and be like, I have nothing to offer.
Hi, you do it. So I go, I'm planting fucking turnips. That's what I'm doing. And she goes, and she says, "Why are you planting turnips?"
Oh no.
So I said, "It's not about the fucking turnips."
Did you really? Yeah. You totally called her out.
Yeah. I said something. It's like, it's because you fucked my brother. I don't know what. You're like, Oh, I hate bad improvers. God.
Oh, they're the worst. They're the worst. I mean, because even the thing is sometimes even when because I yes and almost anything, but a lot of times when you ask yes and stuff where they just cannot dig themselves out of this like pit of hell they have made for themselves, it's just it's so difficult. It's just so difficult because it's like, and apparently that time I did not have the energy. It was just like,
no, you didn't have it in you. You didn't have it in you to carry the load anymore.
I just couldn't do it. No, but that's happened a couple times where I'm doing, I remember one scene and our coach got so mad at the entire rest of the team because they left me out there. We were doing a scene in a department store where I was trying to return something. And I was, shopping and looking at things and talking to myself, and I had a phone, so I was having a phone conversation, and I kept going, where is everyone? Is anybody going to come and help me? Like, this is ridiculous. You can never find anybody in these department stores. Luxury, my ass, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going on and on and on. And I'm actually making eye contact with some of my team members like, what the fuck? This is not a monologue. Somebody come out here.
Because if anyone out there is not familiar with improv, it's like one person goes out, they start like what you did, kind of like create a scenario, and then members of the team are supposed to go out and engage and create a scene, not just stand there with their thumbs up their asses watching you do nothing.
I was literally out there for like 2 minutes. I was out there for 2 minutes by myself. And our coach afterwards was like, I don't ever want to see anybody do that to a team member ever again, blah, blah, blah. She's furious. And I was like, that was not cool, everyone. Really? That was not cool. It was like, we worked through it and whatever, but I just kept thinking, what's going on? Are you guys all watching me?
So one woman, that's like reminds me.
This like it morphed into a one-woman show? What the fuck?
Yeah, I didn't know I had, I don't have the material for that. I mean, one time I had a class where we broke, and the coach was like, guys, like, I really need you, like, when you're doing a scene together, you can't comment on the activity. You gotta really like bring some fresh flavor to the scene, height of our intelligence. You can't just sit there and comment. Everyone's like, yeah. So right away, he's like, okay, so you guys, start this scene over. This one guy is they're both very good improvers, so it makes it even funnier. One of them's like, doing stuff, and we just went through this whole come to Jesus about like, don't comment, you guys do this, and then the other one comes and he goes, what you doing in my shower? And I'm like, no.
Oh my god,
no.
Oh my god, the
struggle is real. And then then you end up in like this improv pit of hell where you all just start like practicing once a week, and you have this like concept. I've seen you in it, I've been in it, and you have this thinking that you're going to become an improv team, and you're going to be on a house team, and then you're going to get all this following, and then you're going to get a sitcom, and it's like, that doesn't fucking happen. That happened
No,
when she started UCB. It doesn't fucking happen.
No, it did happen. It did happen.
What
in the
does
very
happen?
first,
You got 3 years of wasting time with idiots once a week, doing the same crap over and over, and not being able to yes end. You get what you do in my shower on your own dime. All right, correct me.
well, that actually was a legitimate way, but like 20 years ago, in the first 5 years of UCB, when people were actually on teams and doing improv because they loved improv as an art form,
yeah,
then that worked. But when everybody's manager and agent started to tell them, oh, you need to have improv in your resume, you need to do improv, you know, people like that when you're going to book commercials, and, you know, a commercial audition is looking for improvisers, you have to be able to improv, that fucked everybody over.
No, you know what? It was even worse, because it wasn't agents and managers telling their talent to do it. It was people hearing that agents and managers were telling their talent to do it. So it was people without even any agents or managers going in thinking they were going to get an agent and manager because they were on a house team.
Yeah, it devolved from the pure art form, which is what it started from, into a pile of shit.
Yes.
It did. I mean, it took a while, but that's like not why and from my understanding, it's not why they started it. So, but anyway, so yes, look, I'm cleaning out my garage.
Cool.
And I'm creating my ceramic workshop in my garage. I'm moving it from the basement.
I'm glad you've told people those are ceramics, because there's been so much drug activity in your neighborhood that if one didn't have their eyeglasses on, they'd think that was just piles and kilos of cocaine.
Exactly. I found a way to actually freeze dry it into these molds, like solid states.
No one ever thought of that before. And I shipped them as Mary Magdalene statues.
Exactly. You know.
God dang, girl.
No, but it's fun because I'm actually going to finish the floor of the garage, because it's a dirt floor. This is a 100-year-old building. It's a dirt floor. It's got moss on the roof, no electricity, no nothing, right? So I'm going to get this gravel delivered, but guess how much I need?
I like that. Moss on the Roof. That's like a band.
Moss on the Roof.
They open up for the Lumineers.
Exactly, and they're from Pittsburgh.
Moss on the Roof. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out with Moss on the Roof.
Their lead singer's called Squirrel.
Yeah. Hey, this is Squirrel. Squirrel. I'm going to sing about drinking whiskey in Brooklyn.
Exactly. And they refuse to be on the same ticket as Owl City, because owls and squirrels do not get along, man.
Owl City is our rival.
Exactly. Owl City sucks. No, we were having this discussion about, okay, what do you call them? Fireflies or lightning bugs?
Fireflies, but I'm already thoroughly bored by this line of conversation.
What?
Yes, no. I got a better idea.
All right, we'll move on.
When did, you've been in New York longer than I have. When did hipsters take over Brooklyn?
About 2004, I would say.
That recently?
Oh, yeah.
Like, when I first came to the city, you lived in Brooklyn because it was more affordable, or you had like family connections, like a family home.
Right.
And it was kind of edgy, but you didn't really, it wasn't first choice. It was like, oh, you know, there's really nothing. I mean, the housing market it was like, oh, there's really nothing in Manhattan. Let me try Brooklyn. And to a great extent, that's still the case. But I don't remember the exact time when the comet of hipster, like, odd sort of throwback coolness, like these guys drinking whiskey called Moss on a Roof, took over Brooklyn. And you think it was around 2000, 2004. Post
2004,
9/11.
2005, because definitely in 2008, you know, when the Ace Hotel started and that whole thing, and then it was the baristas who had the handlebar mustaches and things like that. That was not that long ago. That was like 2010.
What? Like, who is that person? I've always wondered this. Like, do hipsters know they're hipsters? Is it a derogatory term? Who are they? Where
I
do they
don't
come
I
from?
don't think they define themselves as a hipster, but you know, they choose a certain lifestyle. They like to hang out with certain people. They like to, you know, curate things in their life, and they like to, you know, pickle
Curation is a
things.
very big hipster trait.
Oh, that they curate things in their life. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There's like a rejection of mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They do things like play, you know, they play records. You need a record player. They, you know, they
it's
want
like
the authenticity of a record player so they can hear like the scratches and things like that. But it's only like certain albums. It's not everything.
it's like a faux grasp for authenticity.
Yes. Yeah.
And if hipsters were a state, it would be Vermont,
No, it's Oregon.
Oregon,
Yeah,
which
it's
is why
absolutely
Portlandia
Oregon.
is one of the greatest television shows
Oh
ever.
yeah, I mean that's what Portlandia is all about. And here's the thing, like just from a like character study or a psychological kind of study of the hipster, I'm wondering if they come from broken families.
Now,
And they're trying to create a community
yes,
that they never had as a child, and they're picking and choosing all the things that they wish they had had.
it's very Woody Guthrie without the external strife that Woody Guthrie had his community with.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason they all lived in a church, because they were broke and they were dodging a draft or whatever.
Right.
These guys all want to live in a church because they don't like air conditioning. Yes, I love this broken home theory. There's some sort of narcissistic, like, attention-seeking need that they didn't get. It's like a niche that they're trying to fill. It's like maybe they weren't generalizing. Maybe they weren't good. Maybe they didn't fit in. Maybe they weren't good at sports. Maybe they weren't good at grades. I don't know. Maybe there was they felt like they had some shortcoming when they were growing up, and then they needed to create their own sort of universe, community to be in that rejects all that mainstream notions of success. Is that?
Yeah, and they're going to pick and choose all the things that ultimately would have been an idealized childhood, but try to find the adult versions of those, or at least what they perceive to be the adult versions of those. And then live within that kind of like faux self-created narcissistic world.
And it's inherently privileged because they're always slumming, right? Like they're always like, I could live the normal wealthy lifestyle, but I choose to do this alternative, hands to the earth, roughing it.
Some of them, yeah, for sure, some of them do. I mean, and some of them are truly, here's the thing, if you're truly that type of person, you're not going to live in New York City at all, and not in any of the boroughs. You're going to be in, some small town upstate, or you're going to be in a Portland or something like that.
Then you're not a hipster. Then you're just local.
Right. You're the actual.
You're the real
deal. Yeah. So the hipster is, there was actually this guy who I was in improv class with who, like 10 years ago, this is why I think the hipster highlight was like 10 to 12 years ago. He set out traps and he called them hipster traps. And it was actually like a bear trap. And there'd be a PBR in it, a pack of cigarettes, and like a ticket to a Peter, Bjorn, and John concert.
Oh, that's genius! And it's not like cigarettes. Be careful. It's rollers. It's rolling papers.
Oh yeah, it was rolling. It was a very specific type. It was like rolling papers and tobacco or something, and then in a shot of espresso or something. It's ridiculous.
The PBR is the perfect beer to
Oh, that's the hipster beer.
hipsters, because no offense out there, it's horse piss.
Yeah.
It's horrible shit beer. It's been around forever. It's from Baltimore.
Is it?
I believe so.
I thought it was from Colorado.
I don't think it's from Colorado. I could be confusing it with Natty Bohemian, which is a close cousin of Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Okay.
Regardless,
Okay.
drink it because it's bad.
Yes.
Now, I'm all for, like, I don't need to drink, like, mainstream domestic. It's like, I'm not, I ain't trying to get on the NASCAR wagon of all their sponsorships. I like a good craft beer. I can buy into that. But Pabst ain't that. That ain't that. They drink it because it's like,
yeah.
And it's such an encapsulation of that whole movement.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is, they don't. Excuse me. They don't even appreciate like the real history of Pabst Blue Ribbon, because my uncle, excuse me, had a bar in a very tiny town in Nebraska, called Platte Center, which had a population of like 175. I'm talking tiny. And like, it's barely a town. And above the bar was one of those lighted signs that's Pabst Blue Ribbon, where it goes across like this and around, and it's this like scene of water and fishing and mountains and whatever. And it's just on this like weird loop, where it's Pabst Blue Ribbon, like lighted sign. And it's like, there's a story behind Pabst Blue Ribbon, but it doesn't matter to a hipster.
It ain't Bushwick. That ain't the story.
No, exactly. That's what I mean, though. It's like, there really is a story about Pabst. I mean, there's a whole company and everything behind it. So, but it's just funny that
there's one of those brands that like stumble into newfound relevance, like Aperol Spritz.
Oh my God! Now the Aperol Spritz is like the Sex and the City aficionado who refused to grow up, refused to let go.
It was really just like a couple of folks who went to Europe on vacation and were like, oh my God, everyone has this like they have an Aperol hour over there.
Oh, do they really?
5 o'clock. So that's a really cool.
But that's a legit like.
Legit.
So, if it's a real tradition that has roots, I'm all for it.
Love it. That's our hipsterism coming out.
Yes.
So they came over here, and like a lot of people started to do that again here for whatever reason, just like Rosé caught back on. And then Aperol wisely caught wind of this and just did a total rebrand.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were in on it.
It's like Hush Puppies. It's all those brands. It's like, it was in that Gladwell, not that he's knows a damn thing, but in his tipping point, it's like something just kind of triggers, like some sort of maven or whatever you want to call them. Hipsters develop an affinity for a certain brand, and it tips it brings it back into relevance or tips it over the ledge.
Exactly. Well, now it's like with social media, it's like you can't even keep up with tipping points, because they tip and then they tip and fall off the earth, and then they tip and fall off the earth.
Like a slanted floor, just tipping everywhere.
Everybody's tipping. You can't even. It's all tipping. So you got me on the whole reflecting upon South Park, because you texted MK. I was like,
I love to say
God. Okay. And I think I told you I'm listening to this ceramics glaze course.
Yeah. The guy
and literally like every 7 minutes, the instructor is like, okay. So anyway, I'm kind of a rebel in the glaze world. Okay. But you know what? I can back it up. I've got, I can back it up. I've got the proof. Okay. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can watch this whole thing.